Welcome, everybody. I'm Maury Weinstein, President and co-founder of System Source. Today's topic, an important one, managed IT services, 10 specific results you should expect. And I say important for really two reasons. One is that 5 of the last 7 that we've proposed managed IT services to are coming from other managed service providers, sometimes not the first one, sometimes more. So one of our goals today is to eliminate that multi-MSP transition that's not that much fun. Number two is that because nearly all of you are managers, one of our roles as managers is to set expectations, and setting them high is one of the things I talk to our management team about. And knowing what is possible in terms of expectations, specific results, feels like a worthwhile topic. We do see a lot of people receiving the basics, but not what you need. So that's an important discussion. There are a lot of managed service providers and internal IT departments. So we're really talking about managed services today, but it's very relevant for internal IT departments also, where basics are being delivered, but perhaps not what's needed for the organization. So we hope you're enjoying your pizza. If you haven't received your pizza, please check your front door or reception desk. Sometimes it's the same place. And then contact Julie at jdellinger@syssource.com. And thanks, Julie, for putting together today's event. That pizza looks awfully good compared to my salad sitting to my left. I thought we'd go to commercial for about 10 seconds, and then we'll get right into the meat of today's presentation. People come to us for exactly the reason we're talking today, and that is to mature their IT or audiovisual operations. We use our training center to do part of it by training about 500 people a month in a variety of topics. We have application courses, technical courses, developer courses, a lot of AI going on in our virtual classrooms. We also have classrooms available for rental. Our presentation systems groups handles all the audiovisual work, the creation of huddle rooms, auditoriums, gymnasiums. All of that is done in the presentation systems team. Consulting is where we keep our heavy hitters technically. Those do our cloud migrations. All of our security analysis is done in that group. Cloud services is code word for our data center. We've been running a data center in our Hunt Valley headquarters since 1995. We took our cloud blinders off decades ago. Today, much of our current work is being done at AWS and Azure, of course. Service and support can be done two different directions. One is proactively and the other reactively. We do both, but nearly all of our work is done proactively through our managed services operations. That gives us the experience to talk about it today. If we maintain efficiently enough, there may be enough money left over in the budget to purchase and refresh the equipment. Of course, a lot of that has already gone on in the past year as Windows 10 made way to 11. We have a configuration center and warehouse here in our Hunt Valley headquarters. I should also note our computer museum. If any of you haven't joined us in our computer museum, it is substantial and large. This week we got our telephone switch running. So don't hesitate to bring your friends and or family or your IT department in for a visit. It's a fun tour. We have over 1,000 items available for appraisal on our floors. Our upcoming webinars are in front of you. We've got why we're covering Wi-Fi, we're covering Azure resiliency. That's a good session. We're covering VMware alternatives. Ooh, that's a good session too. And the biggest session of the month will be the Power BI session. I think there's already 60 or 70 people joining us for that. Our management event series, which today is part of, is an extensive one. So don't hesitate to check the front of our webpage or watch your email screen or watch the front of the SysSource webpage for other sessions that are like it. Maximizing security, cyber insurance coverage, questions I'd ask when choosing a managed service provider, all kinds of fun sessions. I hope you'll enjoy them. But today, the agenda is right in front of you. These are the 10 expectations or results or outcomes that your managed service provider or really your internal IT department also should deliver. We'll wander from fixed price all the way to business reviews. Let's start with number 1. Fixed price for easy budgeting. I had no idea how important this was to CFOs until we entered this piece of the business maybe 16 years ago. So important to CFOs to have fixed price for easy budgeting. You pay only for systems in use. So you're really turning your IT management expense into almost a variable expense. There's something about variable expenses, especially to CFOs and upper management, that's very, very positive rather than fixed expenses in case there is a downturn. Now, there is an out of scope allowance, and this is one expectation that you might want to check for with your current managed service provider or future ones to make sure there's some out of scope workstation allowance. Ours is 6 hours per 50 end user systems per month, but we have never found a managed service provider that offers this. I actually saw this one time, and I said to the prospect, "Where did you find this?" And he said, "I asked for it." So there is a lot of nickel and diming going on in workstation charges, additional charges for new workstations or rolling out new software. But we have an allowance for that. That 6 hours per 50 end user systems per month was a guess we made years ago. Turns out it's enough hours to cover all but one customer each month. And that customer changes each month as to who's busy replacing their systems or changing software. So that's number one, fixed price for easy budgeting. We'll speed it up by saying number two, lower staff costs via higher productivity. You would think that, Maury is just blowing smoke. There's no way we can measure this, and it's just another slide on the screen. But the question comes, how to balance increased security and staff productivity? Are they inverse? Is one at the detriment of the other? Well, you would normally think so, but it turns out the data may be indicating the opposite. So let's take a look at the data. This is a metric that we have created when we asked ourselves, are we helping our customers at all? Can we measure that? Are we increasing their productivity? How do we know to go home at the end of the day and be satisfied that we had some impact on our clients? Well, that's our metric, tickets per workstation per business day. This is showing the metric across all managed service clients, and the outcome is a 46% drop in tickets per workstation per business day over the 118-month period since the base period of January 2016. In that period, we've been able to drop the tickets per workstation per business day 46%. Now, during that period, we've had everything thrown at us, and you've seen the same thing. Work from home, with COVID, back from work from home, all the Windows 10 changes, thrown in, of course, all the phone systems and everything else that's Zoom to Teams changes, everything else that would drive this number up. All of that is in these data points, including our proactive activities. About half of our tickets are addressed proactively, which means we put them in before they impact you. We'll take a look at some of the examples of those proactive activities in a moment. By the way, you can actually figure out what this 46% is worth in hard costs, real staff productivity. So I've done that here in the bottom yellow box. Reducing 46% of tickets saves around $10,000 a year in raw salary per 100 staff members, with the only assumptions being $35 per person per hour average wage and 1 hour of downtime per request. With those barest assumptions, it's 10 grand a year per 100 staff members in raw salary. So hopefully this is of benefit to you. I'm offering to benchmark it. You're welcome to use this to benchmark against your own numbers. They're not particularly difficult to get. And we do offer this for each of our managed service clients, that they have an overlay on this graph, their graph versus the average. We see some clients above, continuously above, and then we have to explore that. What causes a client environment to be above the all client average? There's something about their support requests, something about their environment. Turns out that when we do this work, this is just an example in front of you, something pops out at us. Yesterday, I was at a client that was had about 36% in one category known as permissions. Well, at least we understand that, and we're able to go to work on that. But each client is different. It's quite unusual. Some clients have older equipment, some have high turnover, some clients need more training. It really depends on the client. It's pretty impressive how each client is different. Until you do this work, you really don't know how to bring down tickets per workstation per business day and generate more staff productivity. I say more staff productivity because if a reduction is achieved in tickets per workstation per business day, and it's not easy to do that, we think that the end users are spending more time, less time in IT, more time in other organizational needs, less time in IT, more in other organizational tasks and goals. So that's number two. Now, if we do this right, and it's a collaborative effort, we should free up your time to do all kinds of fun things, including taking a vacation. We take great pride in that first out of office email when we take over a managed services client and that person's out for a week and a half and they tell us there's no way they could do that without having some external help. Number three, satisfied end users, seemingly such a trite thought, but our resolution path is built to create satisfaction and then to measure it. It is interesting when I talk to other business owners, measuring customer sat comes up a lot, but they don't do it, or they do it in some way where they receive almost no responses. I'll show you our numbers in a moment. There's a single question satisfaction survey sent. We get 30-ish response rate, 30% response rates. So we're getting a lot of data, including I can feel my phone right now. It goes out over my name and comes back in to be distributed here internally. And we get it all day long in real time. So that resolution path is very important to architect properly, including getting requests through the ticketing system. Now, of course, requests through phone or email are taken also, but the requests through the ticketing system are special because each request comes with about 50 pieces of information with it. Whether there's a virus existing on your computer, how much memory is on your computer, what version of Windows, and so on. That way we can assign it to the appropriate engineer the first time. Assigning it to the appropriate engineer first time means less escalations. It's actually fairly rare here at System Source that we have a ticket escalation because we have enough information to assign it to the appropriate engineer the first time, and customers hate to tell the story twice. Users receive ticket updates automatically. Ticket notes are entered by our engineers. We actually only eat together on the company when we do our ticket notes, so we actually have an incentive program for that. And the tickets are open an extra day after close to ensure resolution. One of our longtime engineers actually taught us that. You're welcome to use that in your own environment. It has nothing to do with computers, but tickets held open an extra day after close to ensure resolution is a real customer sat builder. And then the single question customer survey is sent, and here's the data. We count only the fives on a 0 to 5 scale. That's known as top box scoring. And we bounce between 97 and 100% on the top box number. So our staff knows that we live and die based on customer sat as well as our customers because we post it on the front of our webpage. If you're not sleeping in the middle of the night, you're always welcome to go to our webpage at syssource.com. You'll see this on the front page. It is our customer satisfaction results in real time without any editing. It's automatic. I see this particular snapshot must have been taken during Christmas. There's a Christmas word there right in the middle. But we also have this in the lobby of our building, sending the same message to our staff. Some of the responses, I only hope our clients are as fun in the workplace as they are responding to our surveys. I use this as just my notepad, and I have pages of this stuff, of the funny comments. And some of them are really good. It's like my computer lost 50 pounds in minutes. Somebody made a Chris Davis Orioles reference here. This person says, wonderful job, Dr. Bob saved a computer from a horrible fate. So there's all kinds of fun stuff. I could frustrate the Pope with my ignorance. He was extremely nice, understanding, patient, thorough, and efficient. And so I just wanted to lend these to you only because you may set the expectation similarly and see the same results from your staff or your current managed service provider. If not, that's an expectation for the next one. Number 4, reduce security risk to attract investors, prospects, mergers and acquisitions, donors, whatever industry or organization you're in, because you're a hardened security target. Now, remember, you don't have to be a hard security target, but you can't be a soft. So soft is not acceptable because that's what the hackers take advantage of. We'll talk more about that in the next slide. But Investors, prospects, merger and acquisitions, or donor groups are asking a lot more security questions, as I'm sure you're aware, than they did historically. So we've got to reduce our security risk to match their expectations. So one of the things that we talk to our managed service customers about, and you should expect this from a managed service provider or an internal IT staff for that matter, is your risk comfort level. What is your security risk comfort level is the question. As for an example, I invest with Fidelity. You probably use Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard, or somebody. And if you go to the Fidelity office in Towson, you'll see there are very nice people, very heavily trained. But they're working at 50% productivity because the security risk comfort level dial is dialed up to 100%. And if you were managing $6 trillion of other people's money, you do the same thing. But we don't have to do that because we're not managing $6 trillion of other people's money. So one of the things we talk about is what is your security risk comfort level? And these discussions are healthy discussions. And again, you should have them with your own IT folks or your managed service provider. In yellow, I try to keep myself honest by saying, does managed services include most of the attributes on this page? So in yellow, those are in scope. And assuming you have the business premium licensing or better licensing, which is just moderate licensing in Microsoft's world. Many of these are $0 items. Disappearing from business social media is a $0 items. Many of them are low cost items, but the yellow ones are in scope, assuming you have the right Microsoft licensing. And another way of looking at this chart, besides what we talked about, is how can I do this with one or two internal IT folks? They'd have to spread their wings really wide. It's very difficult to execute this with one or two people. Another healthy discussion is recovery time and recovery objectives. These are RTOs, those are recovery time objectives, and RPOs, which are recovery point objectives. Recovery point objectives, of course, is what point do I have to restore your environment to if something happened, and how long do I have to do it is what RTO means. These are healthy discussions. I was sitting with a logistics IT manager some years ago, and I felt there was an elephant in the room, so I asked him, how long do I have to put your operations back together again if something bad happened? And he said 4. I figured he meant 4 months. He wasn't virtualized, didn't have the site-to-site disaster recovery in place. But by the time we were done, he was then later acquired by a national firm. By the time we were done, he could do it in the 4 hours that he was thinking about rather than 4 months. But without discussing this first, often we design the wrong systems if we haven't had this discussion. These are healthy management discussions. Proactive activities, I promised you a short list. This is just some of my favorite ones. There are plenty more. But the ones we did recently are sensitive AD folder permissions checks. In Active Directory, as all of you know, it's not easy to manage folder permissions with a high level of accuracy, but we've offered to do that for our managed clients. Those are actually a fairly recent new proactive activity. These proactive activities, again, are just a subset of our annual proactive activities. Some of them are done 2, 3, 4 times a year. And again, there's a longer list. The second one we added recently is the Microsoft 365 Enterprise Applications Check. If you haven't looked at your enterprise applications in your Microsoft portal, you might not be happy. We have clients with over 100, well over 100 that have been pre-authorized. And Microsoft has left the window open, the door open too wide on this, and they've recognized that and have started to close that door. But there's all the applications, all the sins of the past needs to be looked at. Password reuse, firewall reviews, backup audits. Actually, at our size, we actually take probably 3 man weeks to do backup audits. It is a long effort to make sure our backups are being done properly. And of course, we watch the result every day, but this is a backup configuration check instead of that's in addition to the daily checks. So these are proactive activities. We like to think, and hopefully we're on the right track, that if you do enough proactive activities, you don't have to stay up all night and all weekend recovering from one thing or another, because our proactive activities catch those during the daytime. That's why we keep our off hours workloads very small. Security risk reduction is another topic you should have high expectations of. Actionable reporting, we'll show you evidence of that in just a moment. 44% of our tickets are security focused. That number used to be 0. I remember years ago, we used to have security webinars and nobody would come. It was quite a while ago, at different times. And you should expect research-based recommendations. So no one size fits all approaches. I'm going to give you some examples of this in just a moment. We use the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, that's the DBAR report, which comes out annually for data-driven recommendations. So we ignore and delete the zillion emails that come in from one organization or another saying they've got the trends to talk to us about, because this particular report is heavily researched. And I actually have a different webinar on the Verizon report, which is actually coming up shortly. A couple of our clients have won actually awards for their security. One had a big trophy on his filing cabinet, and he was pretty proud of that. I think the board gave him a big bonus for that. I didn't ask him. Actionable security reporting right in front of you. You probably have a lot of them. These are two of my favorites right here down the bottom: phishing campaign results and fraudulent 365 logins. There's lots of others. Let's take a look and drill down here. You'll notice that I'll be making some claims today, and some of the discussions I might be less credible for those that are new to our webinar series, but there'll be a data point or a graph behind each one of these in order to build that credibility, hopefully. So let's take a look at fraudulent 365 logins first. This is our internal tracking of fraudulent 365 logins. So we've been tracking this for a long time, but you can see the shape of the curve. Now, we can't take credit for this all by ourselves. Some of our customers are buying better licensing, having better phishing practices, setting up their know-before phishing campaigns better than before. So we're playing an assisting role here. We can't take credit for all of this progress. But you can see quarters where there's been 10 fraudulent logins. Having the hackers in your email accounts, not a good situation. I assume all of you know that. But we've managed to take it down to 1 a quarter. I don't know if Q1 we're going to be so fortunate. Some of our customers have already given up their credentials and or downloaded fraudulent software to give up their credentials so far this quarter, but the quarter's not finished yet, so I haven't put it on here. But you can see the progress. There were actually 8 months in the middle here with 0. So there is some hope for our security work together, yours and mine. It's not a hopeless situation, but we've got to practice a lot of the right practices, one of which is to keep phishing under control. This is a data set for which we can vouch for because we don't believe in any of our manufacturers' data. So data sets of phishing always starts in 20-23% range before, know before, or similar work is turned on. And then look what happens. The phish prone percentage goes into the noise and stays there. Can you imagine if all business problems could be solved for $3-ish a month like KnowBe4? Now, this KnowBe4 is carefully set up, that the results of which you're seeing here. And of course, new hires always put up a challenge. And anytime you change and harden your phishing templates, make them more difficult, that'll drive up the number also. But to take this number down over time is very important. Another way of saying that, if you were at 10%, I'm just making up numbers, and if you're a 100-person firm, that means that when the hackers take it out on you, I have to, or you have to, handle probably 8 mailbox recoveries simultaneously. That is not easy to do, even at our size. I say 8 instead of 10 because 2 people will probably be on vacation. So we've got to keep this number down in the noise, and it is possible to do that. There's lots of weeks here, by the way, showing 0%. Is it interesting though, and I think you might share this if you're a KnowBe4 customer or something similar, that you've got to set it up just right with best practices. Otherwise, the results that you see here are not possible. We do have clients with KnowBe4 in this range up here, and that of course makes you a soft target. And again, the goal is not to be a soft target, although we don't have to be a hard target like the CIA or FBI or whatever. So you've got to do enough of the right things in terms of frequency and manage your involvement and artificial intelligence choosing templates. And there's lots of ways to set up or not set up KnowBe4 properly. We do actually have a setup service that most of our clients go through, even if they already have it set up when they come to us. So great stuff can happen, but KnowBe4 is very interesting. I assume it's just like any other package, like accounting package. If you don't set it up right, it doesn't give you the results you're looking for. We continue talking about performance reporting. This is a patch score. This happens to be the Microsoft patch score. And I put it here because we find that many clients aren't requesting this from their managed service provider. It's not a result that they're asking for, and it's not being communicated. Now, I know that patch is a lost art. I know that because we measure our inbound managed service clients before we start work. That number is generally nearly always less than 30%. At 30%, of course, you're a soft target and hackers can take advantage of that easily. But with a couple weeks of work, we can take it to the mid 90s and stay there. We rarely are outside the mid 90s in our Microsoft patch score. But the first step is reporting it. First step might be expecting it, asking for it, and then reporting it, whether you're using a managed service provider or you've insourced. But we know that this is a really boring area of the business, patch score, but we have people who just do this work and can keep patch scores up in the mid 90s. One time there was an incident that was reported not in our customers, but somewhere in the US in the healthcare area. I think it was the MedStar incident. And some of our healthcare clients were getting a little nervous, probably appropriately. And so we took up their patch scores into the 100% area. Now, of course, you can only keep it at 100% until Microsoft dumps some new patches on you each week. The second performance report that you should expect specifically from your managed service provider or internally is tracking of backups. I made reference earlier to backup configuration checks, which we do multiple times a year. And that's with 3 man weeks of unbroken work. But each day before you and I wake up in the morning, our staff has been checking backups each day, each job, successful, failure, errors, go into a spreadsheet for tracking. Now, this is a little portion of a very long spreadsheet. It's probably 700 lines long or whatever. But each day we go in to track backups. And as experienced IT managers, that if you don't track backups, the first thing that happens is they stop running. It's just a law of IT. It's impressive how that happens. We have various stories that, and you could probably tell stories too, that back this up. I was sitting with somebody in our, we had a Sky Suite at Orioles when the Orioles were playing well. And he was interested in joining us in managed services, but didn't. And I said, with our mouthful of hot dogs and pretzels, I said, at the very least, make sure someone is checking your backups. He had no confidence in his managed service provider, but he was getting no support from upper management to change. And a couple weeks later, he called us and said, you're right. We didn't ask questions, and now we have a hole in our backups, and that hole will be there forever. This was a substantial Maryland engineering firm, and they now have a hole forever in their backups, in their archive. Number 5. Making IT easy and efficient. That's easy to say, but our reporting and all the work we do is completely transparent. You have the same access we do, from ticketing, satisfaction reporting, performance reports. We either bring them to you or you can pick them up online, depending on which report it is. You should expect detailed procedures for onboarding and exiting. So when I meet with new employees as the owner of the company, after 3 months, I can see in the eyes of the new employees individually who's been onboarded properly. Improper onboarding, of course, is always a morale issue early on, which is the worst time to have morale issues. Exiting, of course, has to be done properly, otherwise security gaps open up. We've certainly seen that. Making sure each of our client has a custom onboarding and exit checklist, very important. And we provide that with our managed services, at least the outline of it. The lifecycle management software we use has ticketing at the desktop. It's impressive how many people do not have ticketing at the desktop. I'm afraid I could not possibly explain that, but that certainly should be one of your expectations. With ticketing at the desktop, as we talked about earlier, we can that ticket comes to us with about 50 attributes of your workstation, and that we can be much more effective in ticket assignment as well as ticket closure if we have those 50 attributes. I should note, I have added this to the presentation. Ticketing is available for out-of-scope needs. That's a fancy way of saying if you're a real estate client this is a true story, and you have door lock problems. Well, those folks can use our ticketing system for those door lock problems. Or if you've got internet problems at your remote locations that perhaps we're not responsible for, you can use the ticketing system for that. So this ticketing system is shared with many of our what we call co-managed clients. There's actually no charge for that. Some people ask how much of the ticketing work should be done proactively and how much should be done reactively. If it's all reactive, you know that's probably not the right answer. So I did do a ticket count myself, and it is about half the tickets are solved proactively. So about half the tickets go in without you being involved and are resolved generally without you being involved also. And that enables us to minimize our reactive tickets. So the number of hair on fire reactive tickets, big swings in reactive workloads should be minimized by doing this level of proactivity, 50-ish%. So that's a benchmark, again, you can use with your own internal folks or your current managed service provider. Number 6, data-driven recommendations for better IT decisions. If we're making decisions based on hunches or something we did at prior employers or some email that came in from one of our vendors, that's probably not the right approach. A lot of money is spent in the wrong areas. And if we're trying to make sure we're not a soft target and we have limited budgets to deal with, we've got to focus those budgets hard. Well, focus is something that's so important, whether it be IT decision-making or non-IT, and is doable using the Verizon report. So let's pretend that you're in the professional services sector. You've got an NAICS code of 54, you're a law firm, you're an engineering firm, you're an architectural firm, you're an accounting firm, or something like that. Some of you on the call today may be in this sector. This is just one sector out of 10 or 15 that Verizon covers. And I'd be happy to help you through the Verizon report, either note that on your evaluation for today or attend one of our Verizon webinars coming up. So out of 2,500 incidents in the Verizon database, about half of them have confirmed data disclosures. Verizon calls those breaches instead of incidents. The threat actors are coming from the outside. So if you only have time to put on one hat each day, you'll put on your external threat actor hat, and your active and your 88% actor motives are financial at an 88% level. Do you see we're starting to focus now? We're starting to play the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule. Well, it gets even better than this because Verizon, again, for multiple sectors, about a dozen sectors, and I'm pretending that you've got your professional services hat on, that you're a member of an engineering firm or something, that if you conquer these 3 breach categories, you'll be conquering 91% of breaches in this sector. Now, every sector has a different set of breach categories or in a different order or in a different percentage. So that's why individualizing this by sector is so important. Using generic data, it's okay, not great. When our sector data is available, we have sector data for real estate and construction and government and so on. Number 1 is system intrusion. Number 2, social engineering. Number 3 is basic web app attacks for this sector in this order. System intrusion is the complex attacks, generally ending up in ransomware at a 75% level. Social engineering is your know before, preventing pretexting, phishing campaigns. And number 3 is the basic web app attacks. These are using stolen credentials and vulnerabilities generally against web pages. A lot of the work here is done in Office 365, for example. They're not quite one-hit attacks because many of these end up being persistent security vulnerabilities, but they're not the complex attacks that are up here in system intrusion. So I've given you a brief look at this. If for some reason we can make inroads on this, we'll be addressing 91% of breach categories in that sector. Number 7, improving your staff skills. We do include, and you probably should expect, free application classes for those with a gap in knowledge or thirst for knowledge. This is as sensed by the engineer running the support request. So while we run our support requests, we sense these gaps in knowledge and we assign application classes for the folks that are on the phone with us. Now, we don't give them the application classes, we give them to you, and then you can give them to to that person or whomever you want. That's roughly 100 different classes currently open for enrollment. I counted them myself. Everything from AI to Zoom. These are the 1, 2, and 3 hour virtual live courses. Now, you know, we run a learning center here. We've run a learning center since 1983. We've trained over 300,000 people literally in our region. So for us, this is pretty easy. Number 8, the benefit from solving problems quickly. This feels like common sense, but boy, I thought it was important to bring up. One of the things we hear, probably both internal resources and other integrators, managed service providers, is they take a long time to complete projects. Simple projects, none of the stuff is rocket science. Backup projects, VMware this, Hyper-V that. They take multi-months to do that. And you know, you would say, okay, well, they took a long time to do it, who cares? They may be using people from out of state, whatever. But how do you get the benefit from solving the problem if you don't finish the project? And therefore, I went to our own databases and I thought maybe we were guilty of the same thing. Well, our project completion is 31 days on average. That's first timesheet entry to last timesheet entry. We don't stick around long with our projects. They're in, done, and completed. That number is actually fairly consistent over time. I've been pretty impressed with that. So the other benefit from solving the problem and completing the projects is you don't have to personally manage multiple projects, multiple vendors at the same time. That's a pretty heavy workload. If you can do one at a time or two at a time instead of 4 or 5 or 6, that should shorten your day. And of course, getting the benefit from solving the problem doesn't happen unless the project is finished. Team rather than individual coverage. Team, by the way, with a capital T rather than a small t. This is team with a heavy dose of teamwork. We do hear a lot of folks dissatisfied with individual coverage, whether it be internally or whether it be a managed service provider, where if you don't get that one person who has it all in their heads, it's a tough support call. But we managed to conquer that with a capital T by using the wiki. We have the Atlassian wiki. You can have your own wiki also. They're actually, well, they used to be inexpensive, not so much anymore. This is where we do all of our data collection. You're looking at one of our 3 tables in our wiki. It's been cleaned out to protect the innocent, but this is our infrastructure table. We want to know everything about your environment, including where your firewall backup's located and so on. We use 3 different tables, but we also ingest lots of other information. This is a secure area where we can put everything we know about you. And because we share the same information, we can practice teamwork with a capital T, including after hours. Very important part of a managed service provider expectation. Last but not least, by any means, is number 10. Probably should be number 1. I didn't rank them in any particular order. Business reviews. These are the quarterly or whatever frequency business reviews that you go through. Generally, unfortunately, these are multi-hour events. Even with all the reports being actionable, no fuzzy stuff, no noise. These are long meetings, but this is how we establish the discipline for great IT and to make sure you're not a soft target. I'll show you examples of it in just a moment. But this is where we help you make IT decisions. We may introduce solutions you might not have otherwise considered. Sometimes it's easier to ingest best practices from the outside rather than from the inside of the organization. ROI calculations, budgeting for next year. This is when all the survey feedback comes out, although you can have it anytime you want. Where we do our ticket analysis, like you saw earlier in the pie chart, where you help us prioritize needs so we're not working on low priority items and sucking up your focus time. Sometimes we contribute in non-IT ways. We run an organization just like you do, and I'll give you some examples of that in just a couple slides down. Now, these sessions are very personnel intensive, and it does help that some of our people have massive tenure. Chris at 42 years, and Rich Glenn at 29, his peer. These are our consultants, average 30 years between them. Interesting enough, they don't remember every project over 30 years. Sometimes I challenge them and they don't remember every project, but Tony in particular remembers when we wired the first of Oriole Park, when Oriole Park opened. Those are the kinds of tenures that you see. I mention that only because these business reviews are really important, and these are the folks that conduct them. Now, in these business reviews, you should expect dashboards so that you can see where you stand and whether you're making progress. And you can take these dashboards and present them to upper management or to the board. I've actually done this personally with our clients, taking to the board with a subset of our quick glance dashboard. What you're looking at is a little tiny bit of 66 line long security quick glance. These are just the security factors. You can see 2FA is 4 or 5 or 6 lines all by itself. And we can watch as our customers go from red to yellow to green. We actually don't have any all green customers in the security quick glance. Remember, we don't have to be a hard target, but we can't be a soft target. So we hope our customers move from red to yellow to green over time. There's actually another version of this for infrastructure. And I put it up on the screen just because you deserve this kinds of organization, but we have many clients or multiple clients with dozens of servers. How do you keep that in your head without having a dashboard showing the lights and status? This particular customer only has 5 or 6 in front of you, but we have plenty of customers with 30, 40, and 50. So to understand where we are, we do have some customers actually that have gone all green, just a few on the infrastructure side. We talked about contributing in non-IT ways because we run a business just like you do. We just went through the cycle of lowering electricity costs here internally. That's not easy to do. One of my pet peeves is 401k expenses. These are kinds of things we share with our clients in the hope that they can benefit from things like banking risk reduction and so on. That's my 10 expectations, things that you should expect from your IT provider, whether internally or otherwise. I asked Michelle Robinson, who runs the Learning Center, to put together some examples of training, and she's included unlimited productivity training. Unlimited productivity training is fun because your end users can take all you can eat training. It's only $18 per user per month. We actually can find no other way of sending a strong retention message to your staff than this package. It is minimum 10 users, annual commitment required. These are just some of the, a portion of the 100 1-hour, 2-hour, and 3-hour virtual classes. Here's some of my favorites here. VLOOKUP is right in front of you. For those that you can't remember VLOOKUP, how to use VLOOKUP every time. Charts and graphs, there's all kinds of fun stuff here. And there's actually the megabytes, which are the 2- and 3-hour sessions, including hands-on exercises, are included in the unlimited productivity training for the $18 per month per person. I'm sort of loving this, partly because I can't figure out how to send a retention message for $18 a month. That's my presentation today. Now's the chance to ask about it and also contribute what you've tried and maybe been successful at or not. Don't hesitate to use the chat box. Question box is fine too. I thought I'd go to questions that you asked once you registered, and maybe that'll kick off some and jog the mind of some people in order to put your questions or thoughts or things that you've tried that you want to share. When you registered, there was a question about what would you like to learn about this topic. I'm reading through them now. Using first names only to protect confidentiality. Javier, welcome. Improving end user skills. That's a great one, because that helps with this chart right here. So not only does it increase, does it lower help desk costs, which of course, if you've outsourced it, is really our problem, but it also increases productivity. So it does double duty. And that's the graph you see right in front of you right now, the tickets per workstation per business day. If we train properly, that should help drive this line down. And the odd part is it's actually working. Remember, 46% down over that 118-month period. Hopefully that helps answer your question, Javier. Training is pretty easy for us. Of course, we're a training organization and we've been doing it since '83. We have a lot of fun doing training. And of course, nearly all of it is done online now. We do see some actually trend toward coming back and some classroom rental use. David, welcome today. You're noted, are the options with some source managed services that support general service desk volumes where common issue types are defined. You'll have to tell me more about your question so I can make sure I'm answering it properly. You may be referring to our help desk only scopes, perhaps. Are there options with System Source Managed Services that support general service desk volumes where common issue types are defined? You also could be referring to what's known as help desk level 1. We have done that before for clients that have a tough time at answering the phone and taking tickets. They may not have the automation, they may not have the people, they may not have the process, they may not have the tools, they may not have the long tenure, but there's some reason why they're having difficulty with help desk level 1. Help desk level 1 is defined for us as the first 20 minutes generally. And our job is to handle calls that can be handled in the first 20 minutes roughly, and then place them in your systems. That may be what Dave's looking at, and I'd be happy to discuss with Dave, and welcome again today. Burak, welcome. Deciding whether we should hire a internal resource versus renewing with your current MSPs when contract is up. Of course, we'd be happy to talk to you about that. But taking off my sales hat, now you have 10 expectations in order to grade your possible internal hire and your current MSP. Grading them feels like a step ahead when you're making decisions like the ones you're making. Hopefully I've added some value today to your work, Björk. It's good to talk with you. I'll take questions through the question box or chat box. I'll be quiet for 15 seconds if you have other thoughts. If there's no other questions, I'll turn you back to hopefully your great lunch, better than my salad, and lend the 14 minutes remaining of the hour. Some people say the greatest gift of all in the business world is canceling a meeting or shortening a meeting, and now you've been given that, and I hope you enjoyed today. I'll probably stay on just about 60 seconds just in case there's any more pop up. And thanks for your time today. Hope everybody has a good day, and thanks.